Welcome to the May 6, 2025 Public Works and Planning Committee meeting. First, we'll have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Cush. Present. Commissioner Piercy.
Here.
Commissioner P. Here. Commissioner James. Here. Commissioner Dodd.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd.
Here.
Chairman Johnson.
Here.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll have the minutes from last month's meeting. Vice Chair Phil Dodd.
Thank you, Chairman. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve last month's meeting minutes. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, on the agenda next we had waste management, but we're going to have a change up a little bit, and Mayor Carr will have a presentation, and then we'll lead into waste management. I'm sorry, and there's no public comments. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. I have distributed in front of you, and it should be, oh, thank you, Carla. Just a brief PowerPoint on, as we come to the opening July 1 of the operation of the transfer station, just a couple of points. Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, can I have Bishop Wagner join me in the well?
Sure.
Thank you. Bishop, can you assist me, please? In case there are questions of a technical nature, we're ready to answer them. Thank you, Bishop. So as we're closely getting to the conclusion of the construction of the transfer station. Indeed, we should have a CO, a certificate of occupancy, any day. It could be this. It actually could be this week. If you haven't been to the transfer station in the last several weeks, I want to encourage you, every one of you, to just go out there and take a look. What the work that the contractor has done, and in particular what Superintendent Greg Brooks, Road Superintendent Greg Brooks has done, and the quality of work and saving the county literally millions of dollars is truly outstanding. I'm not ready to officially announce the savings, but it looks like, holding our breath, that we will save the county about $3 million on the construction of this facility. We budgeted $20 million, and we're right at total all-in cost of $17 million. So a lot of people have done a really good job, but in particular our road superintendent, because Chairman Phillips, as you'll remember at the purchasing meeting, we got several bids that were extraordinarily high. Yes, sir. For openers, and it went up to 13 depending on other factors. But Greg raised his hand and said, I can do it better, cheaper. And the landfill road out there, gentlemen, is the best road in Rutherford County, bar none. It's a great piece of work. So I think he does deserve a lot of credit. So thank you, Greg, for all what you did. And so what we have here is a brief summary of the Rutherford County Solid Waste Plan, and I've divided this up into three segments: a short-term plan, a mid-term plan, and long-term plan or mid-term goals. Second slide, thank you. The short-term is plan, and that is just get the transfer station open, operational, functional, and where it is of no cost to the Rutherford County taxpayer. The midterm plan is basically anticipating the closure of Middle Point landfill. And then the long-term plan is control over that ultimate control over Rutherford County's solid waste stream, not just the solid waste stream in Rutherford County, but also the solid waste stream that currently comes into our county, because control is the goal. And by getting control of our solid waste stream, the ultimate goal for this county is to increase the diversion rate into landfills, wherever that landfill is. So the short-term goal and the mid-term goal are literally driving us toward being more environmentally responsible with how we deal with our solid waste, other than just putting it in the ground. And so each one of these goals are, the short term is 0 to 3, midterm is 3 to 5, or 3 to 7, 3 to 6, and then the long term is 7 plus, but they overlap. Those aren't like definitive time frames. So as soon as, example, in the short-term goal, as soon as we get the transfer station open, I've already instructed Bishop to begin moving around the country to various conferences or seminars where we can learn more about what composting is, what recycling is, what innovative technologies are. So there's a lot of overlap between the short-term, mid-term, and the long-term goal. And so obviously the short-term goal, as I said, is to open the transfer station and get it operational, functional. With the kinks worked out in the first 3 years, we think it's going to be a lot less than that. But again, the goal is for it to be of no additional cost to the property taxpayer of Rutherford County, which gets us to a big part of why I wanted to speak to you tonight is I want to do two things tonight. I want to propose, and for your approval, the transfer station tipping fees, and I want to explain that. And then I've asked Chairman Johnson for two different motions, and I'll explain those in just a second. So what we've done after consulting with Waste Management, we have come up with something we think works for everybody. Now, these tipping fees are cast in jello. This is a start point. We don't know what the market's going to dictate. We don't know what this is going to do to volume within the facility. So this is just a start point. But where we're starting is from 0 to 199 tons per month. That is referred to as a cash customer or the gate rate. So a cash customer is the gate rate. So if Bishop is doing a renovation on his home and he has one of those trailers from Home Depot that he can put 2 or 3 tons of C&D in, and he's renovating a bathroom, he loads it up, he would take it to potentially our transfer station, and he would pay that $95 per ton rate because he's not a commercial hauler and he's not on account. The other tiers, 200 to 1,999 tons, 2,000 to 4,999, 5,000 to 799, and 8,000 plus, again, tons per month, are for customers, commercial customers on account. And Bishop's getting software that is going to allow him to set these accounts up, to provide the billing. He's working with Michael Smith on exactly how that's going to work within the county, where that money goes, how it's deposited. So he and Michael are working that out, and I believe you're in the process, are you not, Bishop, of selecting that particular piece of software. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. At this point, if you have a question, interrupt me. I don't mind at all, because now that I've got PowerPoint in front of me, I won't lose my place. Yes, Mr. Phillips.
For those who may be watching on TV, would you kind of back up from the start and tell them what a transfer station does and what will happen to the garbage when it goes into the transfer station, and then what happens to it?
That's a great question for our solid waste director, Bishop Wagner.
Hello, Chairman. Hello, everyone. I'm Bishop Wagner, Rutherford County Solid Waste Director. So waste that enters our facility will go over the scales. It will be weighed, and then it will go on to what is called the tipping floor. That's our building that is covered. The hauler will dump the waste, or the participant will dump the waste on the floor. It is then taken by loader, and it is loaded into waste collection and transportation vehicles. They are 18-wheeler, large 53-foot trailer. We have two types of trailers that will be able to utilize at the facility. One they look like standard 53-foot trailers with the tops cut out of them that you load waste in over the top, and then there's a tarp put over the top of it. And then the contract that we have with WM and their partnership with MBI has a proprietary technology that's called, we call it a tube trailer. It looks like a tanker that is, you load the waste into a hopper. It is placed in from this hopper, and it goes into a compactor. The waste is then compacted into the trailer, and then it is sealed at the back, and then it is hauled that way. So there's a lot less, it reduces and eliminates the chance for litter to blow out of the vehicle as it goes. It also reduces and compresses and removes the liquid that we may have to pay for if it was delivered to the end-of-life facility or the landfill. And the landfill that we're under contract with WM is Cedar Ridge Landfill in Lewisburg, Tennessee.
Just one quick follow-up.
Sure.
How does that help us with our long-term solid waste disposal and plan? We understand that all of the trash that you're talking about coming into our transfer station is going somewhere else already. So why? Why do we have a transfer station if it's going someplace else already?
Well, there's two reasons. One is the big elephant in the room is that the place that it's going right now is an approaching closure. And we're in preparation for, in anticipation for being ready to take that waste and manage it in a way that is environmentally sound and safe, that doesn't involve the present location that it's going to. Also, having a station and having the ability to bring the waste into the station is also a control mechanism for the county. Right now, we have zero control over the waste that comes into our county and is presently buried here. When waste comes through our transfer station, we have complete say in what waste is accepted, what waste goes over those scales, what waste we control. It also allows us, and the mayor touched on this, I think, initially, is that it also opens up the idea for us to be able to manage diverting more material. So if we have the control over the waste that comes in, then we have a lot of control over the amount of material that gets diverted and how we divert that material. It helps us logistically, it helps us economically, and as this station becomes more and more online with the fact that it's going to be accepting revenue from the commercial industry and commercial actors as they come across, that'll help offset the cost, the burden, the cost that we would anticipate and eventually absorb once the landfill that we currently are utilizing goes into closure and we have to pay for this waste ourselves. So the goal is for that waste that we are collecting now at our county convenience centers to continue to remain free of taxpayer, property taxpayer dollars as we go forward with this.
So in essence, us running a transfer station right now is in anticipation for us to handle our own garbage long-term.
That is one key. The other is it gives us solid waste control. It gives us control of the destiny of how we manage solid waste and diversion countywide, and it gives us the opportunity to decide when and where and how we manage the waste that's generated here in our county.
Thank you for taking that question. And what you just said in 5 minutes took us 4.5 to 5 years to get to. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bishop. And so what we have here is going back to the tipping fee. Thank you. What we have here are the proposed tipping fees that the mayor's office, in consultation with WM, is offering to the Public Works Committee. What I'm asking is for two motions or two votes tonight. The first vote would be to accept this rate schedule so that we may begin putting together the plan for in anticipation of its opening. And then the second motion would the authority to allow the mayor, Solid Waste Director Bishop Wagner, and the chairman of Public Works, Mr. Johnson, to, based on market conditions, reset that rate as market conditions warrant. That would not exclude the Public Works Committee from setting the rate. It would just include the three of us to be more responsive in the event that market conditions warrant. So what I'm proposing is that the Public Works Committee have the authority to set the rate, the tipping fee rate. In addition, the mayor, Solid Waste Director Bishop Wagner, and the chairman of the Public Works, in this case, Mr. Anthony Johnson, we also have that ability to set the rate if circumstances warrant.
Mr. Mayor, question on the rates.
Yes, sir.
Coming to the numbers. How will that affect, or can it affect, our host agreement while we're still able to dump on Middle Point with our convenience centers and the schools?
Has no effect on the host agreement whatsoever. The host agreement is very explicit to the extent that as long as we don't impede the ability for Republic to receive trash, commercial trash, we're in compliance with the host agreement. As a matter of fact, for as long as Middle Point is open and operational, we will continue to take the convenience center trash and the school trash, which in 2024, I believe, Bishop, was 36,700 tons. And so we will continue to honor that host benefit agreement for as long as Middle Point is in operation.
For further clarity, just make sure I have it clear. So like if they lower their gate rate, we're not going to have to match that.
Well, see,
Would they not risk essentially, or if we go too low below their gate rate, so they could adjust it and force us to adjust with that.
well,
Right.
I can't tell you how Republic is going to respond. And I know you're not asking that, but what I'm saying is I know, as well as some of you know, what our cost is, all-in cost to operate this facility. I also know on a per-ton basis. Oh, and by the way, let me add this, and I didn't say this. These numbers are based on an annual 100,000 tons, and that's based on the numbers that WM, and I'll let Don, Gentilcore, and Tom talk about that in a few minutes, but it's based on some assumptions, and the assumption is that the first year we're going to do 100,000 tons based on those conversations. So based on those conversations, we came up with this tier structure. If Republic decides to raise or lower their rate, it may require us to look at it, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to respond. It just depends. And so I'm not sure how to answer the hypothetical other than we're going to monitor it and we'll see. And if the three of us need to make a decision, if the committee deems that's appropriate, or the committee needs to make that decision, we'll make that decision at that time.
Just trying to think ahead with how much of the convenience centers and stuff still going up to Republic and trying to make sure we're not.
Can you talk into your mic? I'm having trouble here.
I was just trying to think ahead and seeing it might be a non-issue thought, but that's where my head was going to see with that tonnage before we actually have to take 100% of it to the transfer station. Yeah. And would it not be perhaps better, you've thought more about the two motions, but to just narrow it down to one, to let our solid waste director have this as a starting point and dictate the market flow and just report back to us with his monthly reports how the market adjusted the rates and needed to be adjusted, or?
That's why I was proposing that if the situation warranted, I would like the flexibility to for us to make a rate change. If for whatever reason the committee didn't deem that an appropriate rate change, whatever that was, the committee then could, at the next appointed meeting, override that. And that's why I want to make sure it's just not the three of us. I want us to be able to respond if market conditions warrant. I want to be quick without necessarily having called another meeting of Public Works. But at the same time, I think it's important that the Public Works Committee have that same authority. So it's a shared authority.
Maybe I'm just not thinking of the procedure on it. I was just thinking if he needs to go be able to adjust on the fly and then come back to us and just tell us where the numbers, kind of like playing with stock. It went up and down throughout these couple of weeks. That's how it went. But he has a margin to stay in versus a flat number that's decided and come back and.
If that's what the committee, if that's the committee wants to do, we're at the will of the committee on that.
I'm assuming on both these motions you put a lot of thought in it. I was just kind of bitstorming because I didn't. First I'm hearing them, so I was just wanting to connect dots.
And I don't believe I do believe it'll be rare. I really do, where it'd be rare where the three of us would have to make that decision. But I just want to prepare for that event if it were to occur. I typically believe that if we need a rate change, the proper procedure would be to come to Public Works.
Mayor Carr, if I may, the reason we want to do it this way is because we know it's a moving target. This is just a starting point. This is just to get us started. It may change in a month. It may change in 2 months. It may not change. But it's a moving target all the way through. And nothing's in stone. But you have to have a starting place, and that's what this is.
No, makes sense. I just needed to circulate in my own mind for thoughts and understanding.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kush.
Commissioner
James, I also want to point out too, and to remind everybody, if Republic were to lower their gate fees to try and box us out, to me that is a dumb move and an irrelevant move because of the opportunity cost. Keep in mind that we do not have to race to the bottom in terms of fee structure because the opportunity costs are greater for us because these commercial haulers who choose to side with us will pay a little more because they are not going to be spending an hour and a half or 2 hours round trip fighting the mountain every day, and the wear and tear on their vehicles, their tires. They're going to come to a nice new road, dump on a nice clean floor, and be out. So that opportunity cost for them is worth any extra cost that we might have in terms of a tipping fee. So there's all kinds of benefits for paying a little more dealing with the Rutherford County.
And Republic's business model is driven by their contract with Nashville-Davidson County, which brings about 500,000 tons of trash a year into our community. And so that trash out of Davidson County has a set rate to it. And so their whole business model is wrapped around that business model. And so that part of their business model, I don't see, I just don't see how what we're doing affects that particular aspect of their business model.
Mayor, I'm not sure that you were expecting or even wanting all these questions, but it's good information for us to know and for the general public that's listening. These tipping fees, are they an attempt to make a cost-neutral process? Will these rates operate the transfer station to where it's not a property tax burden to the citizens?
Absolutely. And the whole point of how much time we spent on the business model of this side, and again, WM, Don Gentlecore and his team have done a really good job helping us understand the operational side of a transfer station and a landfill and how we should structure this. And it like Chairman John said, this is a moving target. This is only, I can promise you this isn't where we're going to end up. This is just where we need to start so we can get started. But the fact of the matter is 100,000 tons, which is what these numbers are based on. There is no cost to the county in any form of new taxes, none whatsoever.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but I think when we discussed in the office, you said we would not necessarily go up in price. We may even go down in price. That's why I'd say it's a moving target.
We just don't know. Indeed, as volume goes up, the potential for the tonnage price, the tipping fee per ton, is to come down. One other thing is when we constructed, you'll recall, when we constructed and designed this transfer station, we were looking at 1,200 to 1,500 tons per day as the capacity of this facility. And I think I got this right. When WM was out at the facility a week ago yesterday, we were talking, and they believe, if I got it right, and Donna, correct me please, but the capacity of this facility is potentially 2,000 to 3,000 tons a day because of the size, because of the way we built it. It's a first-class facility. Well, gentlemen, 2,000 tons a day for 300 days is 600,000 tons. What we're producing entirely inside Rutherford County right now is approximately 450,000 tons. So this facility meets our immediate needs, and it allows us to grow and expand.
Mr. Piercy.
For the benefit of the people at home, is this facility going to be accessible to the residents of Rutherford County?
Yes.
Are they going to be limited to what they can bring?
That's a decision for Bishop. I would assume so. I wouldn't imagine we would accept a refrigerator as an example because it's got Freon in it, because we don't accept those at convenience centers. I think the things that we wouldn't accept at a convenience center, Bishop, would not be acceptable at the transfer station. Please.
So To answer your question, there are a list of unacceptable waste that will be published that won't be allowed over the transfer station. Some of those materials, though, as they're residentially generated, will be accepted by from Rutherford County residents at our convenience centers. And then some items that we currently aren't accepting at our convenience centers will be able to accept through the transfer station, such as construction and debris material. They will meet, there will be a fee associated with it, much like when people take their things to the landfill that's next door to me right now. There will be access for disposal of all materials that are generated and are not hazardous waste materials at this facility or at our convenience centers for every resident that lives in Rutherford County.
Do you see in the future any plans that you know of or may decide to try to do to be able to take like refrigerators, washing machines, commodes? That's the main concern that I hear. They can't throw it in the convenience centers.
Well, I currently can take refrigerators, washing machines at the convenience centers. We recycle them in the metal. We've got to deal with the metal collection folks on the refrigerants. As long as they don't break the lines to the refrigerants and those can be done environmentally safely at those facilities, that's appropriate. The construction and demolition material, we're looking into what this model looks like when it comes to its overall cost, to how we're going to adjust to be able to accept that. Right now, the reason we haven't been accepting it is we haven't been able to, we don't have the logistical power to be able to get all of those extra containers that get generated in that. And then it opens up another can of worms, which is when we open C&D up to residents, then you do get commercial actors that are driving in non-commercial looking vehicles that come and dispose that stuff on us. So figuring out how we make our way forward with that to be able to ensure that residents are able to dispose of their waste in an appropriate way, and that people that are gaining revenue from managing waste or generating waste are paying appropriately, and it doesn't become a burden of the taxpayer.
Having asked those questions, I'm going to make the motion to approve these rates, but I also have a comment about that. Concerned about being competitive. Neighbor are trying to be in line with their gate rate, maybe thinking they would lower their prices and force us to lower ours. The way I understand the way they operate, they would have to lower it $49 to be even to our gate rate. So that's, I don't really see, and that's based on the fact of the environmental fees that they charge you when you take your trash over there. Is that not right?
You're right. You are right. And the reason I settled on 95 was the idea that the issue with the cash customer gate rate is that, and this is in the preliminary stages, I can promise you this is going to change. But our idea right now is on the picture up there a minute ago, you saw that we had 5 bays. What Bishop and I would like to do is take that far right-hand bay and very quickly turn that into our single-stream recycling. We take the second bay immediately to the left, and that is our cash customer gate rate bay. And then the next 3 bays are for commercial customers only. What we don't know, and what we're going to have to learn, is if we get a lot of small customers that are cash customers that are clogging up the facilities activity for the commercial, we've got to figure something out. It may mean in that situation, Mr. Pierce, Commissioner Pierce, that we're too cheap, and so we got to do something else. Does that make sense? And so I just don't know. So it's literally, we had to start somewhere, and so based on consultation with Don, Don General Corps with WM, this is where we started. I don't believe this is where we're going to end up.
I've heard you make the comment several times in this presentation about cash customers. What other kind will we have?
Credit. We'll allow commercial haulers to, I assume, fill out a credit application, and then what they'll do is, and this is how the tiered system works. If you were a credit customer, Las Casas loading and hauling, and you brought in the month of July, you brought in 1,500 tons for the month of July, where your bill is for 1,500 tons times 85. But the next month in August, you do 5,800 tons. Well, for that billing cycle, you're going to be charged $77.50 a ton. And so you come, because you're a regular customer coming on regular intervals, we track your account, and then the first of every month, the first of the following of every month, you'll receive a bill, and you will pay that bill based on the tonnage of the previous month.
Let's just say I bring you 1,500 tons in 1 month. You send me a bill, and I don't send you a check. Then what?
Bishop, I think that's a question for you.
So you will have an account set up. If you're going to bring volumes that are larger than what would be considered a cash transaction, cash or card transaction that happens at the gate, you're going to have an account set up. And in that account, it will be a requirement that you provide some sort of a backup to what you have, a credit card or some kind of number that we can draw down on, or the finance department can draw down on, to ensure that our end is covered. You will also meet some legal ramifications if you don't have enough money on your account, which would become to send us into collections. We're still feeling out how we're going to implement that. We're looking at some software that does some things that'll help us to be in a good position for that. We're also working with the finance department to find out how much heavy lifting they're going to be able to do in that aspect. But the other thing is, if you're generating 1,500 tons, which is a considerable amount of waste, you're going to need a place, and you're generating in Rutherford County, you're going to need a place to dispose of that waste. If you generate it 1 month, you're probably going to generate a significant amount the next month, and you're going to need a place to dispose of that waste. Well, if you're not paying me on my bills, and you know, we've got a contract with WM, who has a lot of the landfills that are around here, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling them, saying, hey, they're not paying their bills. They're going to come around and pay their bills pretty quick to ensure that they have a place to be able to take the waste that they're generating. So there are some mechanisms that we have here to ensure that people stay honest and pay their bills as they're supposed to. But yeah, we'll have a list of, and they have one thing about a transfer station is you put a picture of a truck on a wall, they call it the wall of shame. If somebody's not acting right, you see that truck when they hit the scale house, and they're turned around. They're not allowed to dump on that facility if they're in arrears, or if they've done something like try to dump unacceptable or hazardous waste on us.
On your credit customers, are you going to bill them weekly or once a month?
Once a month, net 30, I think, is what we're discussing.
I'll still make my motion to approve the gate rates. And the other motion you were asking for, I feel more comfortable, since you're coming to us to approve the gate rates, I would feel more comfortable if you come to us when you got ready to change the rate.
Can we take one motion at a time? Thank you.
That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. If your motion is, would you restate, please?
My motion would be to accept the gate rates that is on the TV screen.
A motion that this committee is accepting the gate rates that are on the screen. We have a second. Second, Joshua. Mr. James, a second. Hey, all in favor? Aye. Oh, should this go to budget?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to have some discussion, and I
Sorry. Yeah. We're open for discussion.
made a vote or not.
Well, we haven't taken the vote, so we can.
Chairman P, just for clarity's sake, it does go to budget, correct?
Assume yes, since you're spending money, it would go to budget. My question is, how are you going to determine that the waste that's coming into our transfer station is all generated only in Rutherford County?
It will have to be identified, self-reported by the hauler that brings it in. When they hit the scale, they're asked, where is this waste coming from? They tell us where it's coming from, and then that material is tracked using what the state calls the solid waste origin report system. So that waste is tracked from its reported place of origin through the transfer station, and then eventually it's re-reported again back at the final landfill resting facility.
So how would you verify that?
Well, there's not going to be a hunt squad that comes out. We have to take them on their word. Most of the full reality is somebody that's working on a project that's on the corner of Wilson County and Rutherford County, could they possibly bring some stuff in? Yep. But they're going to pay for it, and it's going to get transferred through our station, and it's going to get taken care of and managed efficiently. The likelihood that somebody that's on the Trousdale County side of Wilson County that's going to come bring stuff over to our transfer station, it just doesn't make logistical sense for them to come and do those things. Davidson County waste is transferred in large 53-foot tipping trucks. We won't accept tipping trucks at the facility, so we're dealing with the range of what we call small trucks, our 30-yard containers and 42-yard large loaders and side load vehicles that'll come to us. They have a range that would be appropriate with the size of Rutherford County. So I'm confident that we will be dealing with Rutherford County waste, and that people will be honest when they come and tell us where they were generating from.
Any more discussion?
Expanding on that, could there be let's say you come in and you actually have to sign that I agree that this is waste that was generated within Rutherford County, and you sign that. Could there be a fine generated to that contract if for some reason we found that person lied? And I mean, could it?
That's probably, Commissioner, that's probably a question for Nick, quite honestly. And I think so you get into, do we have the authority to level a fine? And then how do we enforce the fine? Those kind of things. I think that's a question I would feel more comfortable in Nick answering.
I guess if I was bringing something in, if I had to certify by my signature that this was generated in Rutherford County, and it had a little note that says this subject to $500 fine. If
you've got to sign up on an account, then we can put a paragraph that they have to check a box in the account that I am certifying that the waste that I will be bringing to the Rutherford County Transfer Station under this account is generated in Rutherford County, and that's something that I'm sure could be.
I'm kind of envisioning
If we could, let's get back on really to the topic of this is approving the tipping fees, not the operations other than the tipping fees. We're just approving this tipping fee scale or chart. So any other discussion? Okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Cush? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodge?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Aye.
One quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman. The cash customer, are they Rutherford County citizens as well? Why wouldn't they take it to the convenience center?
Because of the volume that they, if you have, going back to the illustration, if Bishop renovates his bathroom,
Remodeling.
He's got a ton or two, he needs to take it to the transfer station, not a convenience center. So the second part of that, and I think Commissioner Piercy was making a motion that it comes directly to Public Works. Mr. Chairman, if we could get a resolution on that, and we can move on the PowerPoint, we can either accept or not Commissioner Piercy's motion. Again, I'm just asking that both the county, Public Works have that authority along with Bishop and Chairman Johnson, but I'm at the will of the committee.
Commissioner Piercy, would you restate your comment on that?
My comment was that if we have to approve the gate rate fees, I would be more comfortable with approving as a committee the lower or higher the rate is adjusted to. Bring it back to the committee, because I don't feel like there's going to be a haste no time soon based on the other part that I said about the $49. That's just my thought. I'll make that as a motion if you would like that.
And I'll
If
second it.
if I may, can I comment, Mr. Chairman? I'm not adamant about this, because quite honestly, this is something, if we find, because I can honestly see various aspects to this operation that we're going to have to come back to this committee and we're going to have to tweak and refine. And so that easily could be a part of that. So, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, when we find out that we need to be more responsive, and I come back and I say, hey, we need to be a little more responsive than a committee meeting that meets once a month, can we go back and try, the three of us, in addition to the Public Works Committee setting the rate? I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure we have some flexibility to respond. You are correct. I doubt it's going to be immediately. We're going to have too many other things on our mind than changing the rate right now. So I don't have a problem with that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if I understood you correctly, the motion is to have the tipping fee changes to be approved by the Public Works Committee. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner James. Any discussion?
Does it have to go to full commission? If it comes out of Public Works, I'm assuming it would have to go to full commission.
Yeah, yes, sir. And again, that's part of that challenge. It's that length. And I would assume, again, this is a question for Chairman P. If we do a rate change, let's say the committee does a rate change 6 months from now, does that rate change go to budget? I assume it would. Well, what you're receiving in, it's still money to the budget, correct? So yes, so the pathway, my understanding would be this committee, budget, and then full commission.
Okay, Commissioner James, you second that. Was that your understanding? Yes. Okay. So we have a motion and a second, so we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Kush? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
No.
Commissioner James? Yes. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd? Yes. Chairman Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you. It passes.
Thank you, committee. So let's go to the next slide. And then we're going to kind of roll through this pretty quick because I know everybody wants to hear what WM. So the next slide is basically what we project based on these conversations with WM and with a number of third-party haulers in Rutherford County. We believe that these numbers are both conservative and accurate. But again, we're going to find out because as Commissioner Kush said a few moments ago, the big advantage this facility has is the in and out time they're going to have, the lack, there's no wear and tear on their vehicle, and the fact that just the cost of operating out of a transfer station is greatly reduced for them than taking it to the landfill. So we absolutely believe that these are accurate, both accurate and conservative. The next slide is really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the midterm and the long term. And again, the midterm and the long term overlap with the short term. And the midterm is anticipating the closure of Middle Point landfill, which this committee and the commission understands and already knows. They decided not to open our old landfill up to expansion in 2018, and then that vote was basically reiterated at a Public Works meeting in April of this year, where they were going to cease those discussions. Again, solid waste from our convenience centers. Next slide, please. Thank you, Rachel, Carla. Solid waste from our convenience center and the schools will continue to go to Middle Point as per our host benefit agreement as long as that facility is open. I want to just give a number to that, to what we're taking to Middle Point. Right now, this past year we took 36,700 tons. If in 2026, we wanted to take that same volume that is not being tipped and we moved it through our transfer station for disposal. That then has a cost to the county because now we're having to handle it, load it, ship it, and dispose of it. There's a cost. If we, at our cost, that 36,700 tons would cost the county less than $2.8 million a year. That's all. $2.8 million a year. To take the existing trash that we currently take to Middle Point that is not tipped, if we were to tip it through our transfer station, that cost is only $2.8 million.
All of Rutherford County, including municipalities?
No, sir. We're responsible. I'm talking about the impact, the direct impact to our budget. What would be the impact to our budget to move the convenience center trash and the school trash to our transfer station as opposed to taking the Middle Point? That cost to the county is $2.8 million at 36,700 tons.
Mr. Mayor, could you remind us what our solid waste budget is, and then roughly where that revenue comes from?
I'm going to let Bishop do that, but I believe our budget last year was like 8.2, 8.3 million, 8.1, Bishop?
Last year we operated at approximately $8.1 million. The solid waste department is funded through a fund called the 116 Fund. The 116 is a solid waste management fund. It is the revenues are generated from a portion of the county-derived sales tax, so they're not part or associated with the property tax or the general fund in any way. This $2.8 million fund, money and funds that'll come on here will be offset by the operational costs of the center. That won't be in addition to any of the operational costs that we have now. In fact, some of the savings that we would anticipate that some of the haulers that would be coming to our facility would experience, the less wear and tear on their vehicles, the fuel economy from not sitting for hours running a vehicle waiting for it to dump, some of the $10,000 a month we spend in tires, the 6 transmissions that I've had to replace this year due to being stuck up on a 3-to-1 slope for all day long every day. Those would be a thing of the past, and we would save money that way operationally. So there will be savings that will happen as an organic mechanism of the operation and us taking our waste onto that station on top of the revenues that we would generate through the operation of the landfill and the acceptance of waste from commercial actors.
Thank you. I wanted anybody pull this up to see kind of where those numbers would line together, and most importantly, with a lot of misinformation that's out there about where your revenue is actually sourced from, to kind of spell that out for people. So I appreciate it.
Next slide, please, Carl. So this is what we're trying to avoid. This was an incident that happened within the last few months at the Middle Point landfill. There was a heavy rainfall. In Middle Tennessee, we have heavy rain from time to time, and what you're looking at is Landfill Road. I believe it was October, November of last year, something like that. Was that right? Somewhere in there. It was in the fall, late fall, early winter, and there was a heavy rainfall. What you're looking at is leachate. That dark stuff is leachate. Bishop took a sample of that leachate. We got it tested, and we had accelerated and high levels of some pretty toxic stuff. And so this is why we're trying to get control of the solid waste stream in Rutherford County. Next slide, please. And of course, the anticipated benefits of closure of Middle Point are reduced truck traffic, a cleaner Jefferson Pike, odor reduced, no leachate running over the roads as illustrated by the pictures, reduced environmental impact, which means we will not be receiving aluminum dross, and we will not be receiving radioactive medical waste in Rutherford County. Those are the things that we just will not receive at our facility. So the long term, pretty much the last slide, the long term is where we're driving to. And the short term and the midterm goals are all about getting to the place where we're diverting our waste stream away from a landfill, whether it's here in Rutherford County or whether it's Marshall County. It does not matter. We have an environmental responsibility to make sure that we choose every technology and every means at our disposal to do that. The transfer station is the linchpin of that because it allows us to have control. And we can't do these things here, which is recycling, composting, innovative technologies that Bishop's going to spend a lot of time looking into, continued collaboration with the Central Tennessee Solid Waste Board, and the establishment of an eco park. I actually believe that because of the room and the availability of the room out there, that transfer station is going to, I expect us to see a recycling center. I expect us to see a composting center. I expect us to see a lot of things. But because we've done this, it now gives us the momentum and the leverage to do those other things. And that is the long-term goal. What that exactly looks like today, gentlemen, I couldn't tell you. I just know that as we get closer to opening this up and getting operational, this becomes more of a reality. And that's the goal.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned that we wouldn't be having to worry about radioactive waste coming in. What detection system do we have on our transfer station? I had never thought of that until you just mentioned it. So do we have?
That is a great question, and I think that's something that Bishop and I have not, Bishop, just to be candid, we have not addressed. I know that, I believe, Bishop, at Middle Point, they have actually Geiger counters or something equivalent. Isn't that right? Can you explain that and how that we might want to incorporate that technology?
I would turn to the state Rad Health initially, Chairman, and look at some of the items that they use when they do their identification. There's equipment now that's quite portable that can be set right outside of at the scales. When the scales hit, that will notify us that there is material that needs to be go through an extra inspection. Also, if there's an actor that's been identified through communications with other transfer stations or end-of-life disposal facilities or the TDEC data viewer as having this as a special waste or a haz waste that they've been hauling, and they come across our scales, we can randomly search those vehicles to ensure that they don't have any of this material on board with them, and we can pay a little extra attention to them as well. It is not something that facilities allow to happen. It doesn't happen by accident. There's material that has allegedly been disposed of in the facility next door to mine. That facility was knowingly accepted.
I would add finally on hazardous materials, our biggest concern is lithium batteries because they ignite spontaneously and they create a very hot fire very quickly. And so we are making arrangements. We will have a lithium incident at some point in time at the transfer station. So we're taking every precaution to make sure that we can mitigate that event if and when it happens. And so, but lithium batteries, Mr. Chairman, are our biggest concern as it relates to hazardous waste.
I think I missed the answer to my question, though. I mean, I heard what you said, but I didn't hear you say, yes, we're going to implement.
No, absolutely. We're gonna. I don't know what that exact mechanism will be yet. I'm gonna reach out to Rad Health and find out what they recommend. And I know that other facilities that are in our contract partners with WM, they utilize this same technology. So I'm sure we'll come up with a solution that will be able to address this.
So we will have one.
Yeah, I believe we must.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave, the long-term plan, we're on a scale of 1 to 10, we're still below a 5 as it relates to our long-term plan or what that vision is. And I know it's going to take us some time to really develop that vision. The city of Murfreesboro is well along in their long-term plan. I don't see the marriage between Rutherford County and Murfreesboro on that long-term plan. Can you explain?
The marriage is there, absolutely. So, and that's an oversight on my part, the fact that it's not on the PowerPoint. It should be. We, not just Murfreesboro, but Smyrna and Laverne. This is a county-wide initiative that we have to have buy-in from the municipalities, especially on the recycling part of this, Mr. Chairman, and here's why. Rutherford County does a pretty good job recycling. The municipalities don't have recycling. But what this transfer station does, and it allows us to control not just the waste stream in the part of the county that we have control, but also the municipalities. And I don't want to step on Mr. General Corps' presentation, but he's going to talk about how this facility leverages greater recycling to the municipalities because they have a recycling center in Nashville. The closest recycling center for Republic is in Memphis. So we're ready to go. When I was talking about on the slide earlier, that far right-hand bay being our single stream recycling, what we want to do, what we envision, and we got to kind of work out the operational details is we can put 25 tons of recycling material in over in a top or in one of those compaction units. Well, right now, Bishop is taking 3 trucks a day to Nashville for recycling. Each one of those trucks is, 6, 7, 8 tons. What if those trucks, instead of going to Nashville, came to our transfer station, deposited in that bay, we loaded up 1 trailer, and it went to Nashville once a day? And so now we're creating bandwidth for his operation, and we're creating bandwidth for WM to partner with Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne on recycling. And this is why I really believe in the midterm, we're going to have to put a recycling center somewhere because of the leverage this gives WM and the county to the cities.
I just wanted to make sure, and this is me, but I think I'm talking for more than just me. I just want to make sure that as we develop our long-term plan, and I know it won't happen in 6 weeks or 6 months, maybe 6 years, okay? But Murfreesboro is well along. They've got a plan, a transfer station, a conversion plant that relates garbage into energy. I don't think we ought to be at odds with those. So our plan, whatever it is and however we develop it, should be completely in tune with theirs. And we shouldn't have 2 different plans. We should be able to talk to Murfreesboro and make sure that we are in one accord as it relates to handling waste long-term.
Completely agree. As a matter of fact, Mayor McFarland and I have talked about when they start to get their transfer station off the ground over there off Butler Drive, it makes no sense for Bishop's trucks to come out of Midland Fosterville or Christiana and go all the way up to Walter Hill. Why not have an arrangement where they go to the Butler Drive facility? And I can see potentially us having a facility up in Smyrna and Laverne because of the growth of the county. So absolutely, Mr. Chairman, that is a have to partner with these people.
Add to your bullet points, okay?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I have one more thing to say, then I'm done.
Say it.
So on June 17th, Tuesday, June 17th, at a time to be determined, is National Garbage Man Day, Bishop. That, not coincidentally, happens to be the day that we're going to christen the transfer station floor. And I hope that every one of you will attend. We would appreciate it. And so we will be getting, when we get the details, you'll be getting an invite to that christening of the floor. It's going to be a really good occasion, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And now we have waste management update. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name, but Don Gentlecourt. That's right. Welcome.
Yeah, take that guy, and you're ready.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Figured it would be a good time to kind of come back before the committee and, since we finished up the negotiation of the transfer station contract here this past fall and just talk a little bit about, an update on the operation, kind of, the initial steps as we move into this transfer station, and then give you some long-term perspective in terms of our operation here in Middle Tennessee and some ideas as you look to formulate your long-term plan. So I appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight, and I appreciate Bishop and the mayor kind of answering and giving most of my presentation already, so thanks for that. So I'm Don Gentlecourt. I am the Area Director of Disposal Operations for WM. I've got coming on 30 years experience in the solid waste industry. I'm based in Franklin. I've been in the area just over 5 years now. So in my role, I supervise all of our post-collection operations in what we call our Mid-South area. So that's about 7 states, kind of centered here in Franklin. 30 facilities collectively they manage, and that's transfer stations, recycling facilities, and landfills that manage about 35,000 tons per day of material. So what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about is, WM as a corporation, kind of as overall entity and who we are. I'm going to talk about our local team here in Middle Tennessee and, what infrastructure and investments we have here. I'm going to go through a little bit more detail on the operational plan. I'm going to kind of elaborate on some of the items that Bishop mentioned in terms of the compactor units and how we're going to manage the solid waste coming out of the transfer station. And talk through some of the future opportunities, again, in terms of recycling and diversion and get the process going so that, the committee can start thinking about a solid waste plan going forward. So WM at a glance here, we are the largest solid waste company in North America, about 48,000 people, $20 billion of revenue. If you think about, our fleet and our operations, we're in a conversion of that fleet and our trucks into what we call alternative fuel vehicles, so compressed natural gas vehicles. So if you look at our fleet of about 18,000 collection trucks, about 12,000 of those across the country are compressed natural gas. They run on CNG. Over 100 recycling facilities, organic facilities. We've got a lot of renewable energy projects. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And, most importantly for us, we support over 800 community organizations across the country, and we have about over 13,000 acres of wildlife habitat that we manage in and around all of our facilities. So when we refer to ourselves now, we do that as WM and not Waste Management. We made a conscious effort to rebrand ourselves a few years ago and align with the vision that we have for sustainability growth as a company. So if we think about, where we're going as a company, as an industry, our 2030 goals really are on 3 major pillars. That's material is repurposed. We're investing as a corporation about $1.2 billion in new and improved recycling facilities all across the country. Energy is renewable, so if we think about landfills and the greenhouse gas emissions from them, we want to collect those gas emissions and produce what we call renewable energy, renewable gas. So we're investing about $1.6 billion in renewable gas facilities that allow us to collect and convert that gas into pipeline quality. So that gas is essentially cleaned up and put into the pipeline where it can be used. And it's primarily used by our trucks. So if you think about 13,000 collection vehicles across the country, we're investing in renewable natural gas. By the end of this year, by the end of 2025, as a company, we'll be able to completely fuel our fleet. So we'll be able to take the gas we collect from our landfills, create pipeline quality gas, and then fuel our fleet that goes out and collects waste and recycling from our communities. If you think about kind of circularity, that's a good example of how we're looking at circularity in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then our communities are thriving. We make tremendous investments in our communities, not only in education, but also in wildlife habitats. Our teams nationwide, and certainly here in Middle Tennessee, have a really big focus in terms of investing and becoming one with the community. In terms of our Middle Tennessee operations, this is a map here. If we think about Middle Tennessee, 4 recycling facilities, one of which is a construction demolition facility. That's what we call our Middle Tennessee Environmental Center. That's co-located just kind of on the west side of Nashville. 1 single stream recycling facility, so that's waste or recycling that's collected from the curb, from residences, gets processed through our single-stream facility, use that to produce products that are then used locally to produce goods. We also have 3 Class 1 landfills, our West Camden landfill, which is in Camden, Tennessee, our Cedar Ridge landfill in Lewisburg, and the White County landfill. So White County is a facility that we purchased from White County in July of this past year. The county decided that they did not want to be in the landfill business anymore, so they sought partnerships, somebody to come and purchase a facility and operate it. We were selected last year, and we purchased that facility from the county with the intention, very transparently with the county, of operating that as a regional facility. We are in the process right now of permitting airspace there. That the initial airspace will be available, and we'll be constructing what we call a cell, or an area that will dispose of waste by the end of 2025. So early 2026, the White County landfill will be available for use as a regional facility. And as we go through and talk about kind of where your waste is going to go, White County is going to play into that as well, looking into the future. You see the trucks on the map. Those are where we have our, what we call our collection sites. That's where our trucks are in the market. So not only Lewisburg, Nashville, located in Antioch, also kind of on the north side and the west side of Nashville, we have hauling operations. But we're also investing in a hauling operation in Laverne. So we're going to move a hauling operation into Rutherford County. We collect currently about 100,000 tons per year in Rutherford County. That gets taken back to our Nashville transfer station. Our intention is that by mid-June, we're going to open up that Laverne collection facility, which will allow us to continue to collect and grow the collection in Rutherford County, and again, bring that volume now into the new county transfer station. Think about our sustainability investments right here in Middle Tennessee. As I mentioned, we have a commercial residential recycling facilities located in Nashville. River Hills facility, it is the only single-stream recycling facility in the region. 2024, about 25,000 tons of material were recycled through there. We do have capacity for additional recycling at that facility, so we're certainly encouraging the growth of the recycling market here, because we can manage that material through River Hills. We also have what we call our high-grade facility, kind of hard to recycle films, plastics. Those are managed through our high-grade facility, and we find end markets for those as well. You think about the boom that's gone on in Nashville in terms of C&D growth, all the construction that's happening there. In 2020, and as we all know, the kind of the constraint of airspace in that market. In 2024, we opened up a construction demolition recycling facility, spent about $18 million to open that facility up. And we started it about April last year. In the first 10 months alone, we've already put about 60,000 tons of material through that facility, recovering, wood, concrete, metal, aggregate materials from Nashville construction. And then I talked about our CNG fleet, our fueling stations. If you see a WM truck in Middle Tennessee, it's a high likelihood that that is a compressed natural gas truck that it's running on. The majority of our fleet here in Middle Tennessee is compressed natural gas. And in terms of our renewable energy investment, our West Camden landfill is home to a gas-to-energy facility. We take the gas off that landfill, produce electricity, powers about 3,500 homes right now. And we're actively pursuing other investments at our other facilities here in and around Middle Tennessee. Yes, sir. It's at our Southern Services landfill, which is kind of northwest Nashville. Yep, Amy Lynn Drive. And we've had commissioners, Bishop's been out, the mayor's been out to see our facilities as well. We'd welcome you to come out and tour these facilities just so you can get a sense for the technology and how we're implementing the recovery options. Look,
Don, I
Yes,
don't mean
sir.
to interrupt you, but just
Go ahead.
a quick question.
Yeah.
Converting garbage to energy, natural gas is something that you mentioned. Are there other facilities such as what Murfreesboro is talking about, like their waste-away type of process? Is there anything that you guys have thought about or are planning for the future besides natural gas?
Well, I think our focus right now, we've looked at those technologies in terms of the scalability of those is difficult. Where our investments are going right now is diversion in recycling. We have an organics group that we're looking at not only recycling diversion, but also organics diversion. And then we're looking at, the investment in renewable natural gas. We feel like those are really, for us, the best investments at this point. Not to say that we wouldn't look at those other alternatives we have in the past, but this is where we think, it makes the most sense to invest right now.
And just to follow up with that, with recycling, would you envision a recycling center, a recycling building in Rutherford County? Or would it be best for us to utilize the Nashville facility?
Yeah, I think if you think about where we're investing, as a corporation, you typically want to be on the order of 4,000 to 5,000 tons per month. River Hills right now is about 2,200 tons per month. So that's why we would look at more of a regional facility makes sense rather than putting up these smaller facilities. They're just, you can't put the investment in, the technology in. As the mayor said, it makes more sense for us to look at, let's fill the infrastructure we have first and be able to process that, because we'd love to be able to make an additional investment as well. So, yep. Other questions before I move on? Okay. So, we are very engaged in terms of municipal services. We contract with 10 counties right here in Middle Tennessee. You can see the map right here in front of you. So, we've got, in addition to these municipal contracts, obviously we've got longstanding collection disposal services, really throughout Middle Tennessee. So we start talking about kind of the roadmap here and where we see things. We'll talk about the near term really here. I went out to visit the transfer station last week I met Bishop out there and some of our team, and it's a great facility. It was well built, well designed in terms of the ability to manage volume and customers through there. It's got a great road network. We're excited to be able to help operate that, and we're excited as a customer here to utilize it. But we're going to work with Bishop here over the next couple months to look at a refined operations plan. We're talking about traffic patterns, signage, customer communications, so that we can make sure that, we implement the safety precautions that need to happen here as we go forward. So you'll see our team out there, making some suggestions in terms of some of that as we look to, make sure that it's a smooth transition for everyone, and that customers and the public are made sure that they're safe and that there's well lit and well signed areas for them. We are on track to open up our Laverne hauling site in the middle of June. Again, that'll allow us to locate our trucks, our collection vehicles that are already collecting solid waste here in Rutherford County a lot closer to our customers. And then when the transfer station opens July 1, we're ready to deliver volume into that transfer station. And then as we think about, initially Cedar Ridge will be the primary disposal option here over the first 6 months of the contract, and then we will shift that disposal into White County for the foreseeable future as that becomes the primary disposal site for this area. Again, the same, no additional cost to the county, no matter where we manage it at our facilities. That's the pricing that we've given the county, and we intended to manage it at White County long term. So just a little bit more on the transfer station operations. So this is actually, that's a picture of the facility I took last week. Bishop mentioned and talked about how we're going to manage the waste as it kind of comes through, and then how it's transported out to our landfills. So what you see labeled as items number 2 and 3, that's a compactor system that we're actually going to install into what we call the pit. So typically you'd see a tractor trailer come in, it's got an open top, you take that loader, you would scoop up the waste and load it over the top into this transfer trailer and then put a tarp on it. What the compactor system allows us to do is we load it into the compactor, it then gets pushed into the trailer, which you see the trailer there that, as Bishop said, it looks like a tube. It gets pushed in and compacted into the back of the trailer. So there's no tarp, there's no exposed waste. That back door gets closed behind it. So when it leaves the facility and when it arrives at our landfill, the driver doesn't have to get out. He can just pull onto what we call a landfill tipper, which is what you see kind of in the bottom of the screen there, and that tipper will actually dump the waste out. So from a safety perspective, from a litter control perspective, we've implemented this system at both our transfer stations in Nashville, and think it makes the most sense in terms of being able to manage the waste with the least amount of impact. Any questions about this before I go to the next slide? Hopefully this kind of makes sense in terms of what Bishop was talking about in the tube trailers and how we're going to manage the waste. Yeah.
Do you have enough tubes to cycle the tonnage per day from 100,000 now to 200,000 in 3 years? Enough tubes to cycle those if it's 4 trucks an hour beginning and it rises to 8 trucks an hour?
Yeah, that's.
Have to supplement with open tops and you're right back to blowing trash on the road, or?
No. What we'll do with MBI with this system is that, yeah, they will start, you're going to start seeing tube trailers show up at this facility probably in the next couple weeks. They're going to start staging equipment there. And we've got enough equipment to be able to ramp up or ramp down as it, we're operating right now 2 other transfer stations in this market with a similar system as well. So allows us the ability to kind of shift resources, between those 3. So absolutely. Yep.
This compacted tube truck, how many more of the other trucks, the open tops, fit in that? Like, how many trucks are we saving going
It's the same. It's around the same size. It's around the same size. Yeah. What you do is you get a more consistent payload, though, because it's compacting it to a specific payload. So we'll get a lot more consistency. If you go and again, I'd welcome you to come to our Antioch transfer station. That station handles 1,500 to 1,800 tons per day. And when you go there, you'll see that system and how clean the floor is and how quickly we're able to manage that material. And again, from a safety perspective, that driver just has to kind of back in, attach himself to the compactor, gets loaded, never has to really leave his truck, goes to dump at the landfill, doesn't have to leave his truck either when he's dumping. So.
And a follow-up from a previous slide, with the White County landfill, what's the kind of proposed timeline for that when it comes online?
So we're finishing up the initial permitting right now of that facility. We anticipate that by the end of the year, we'll have that construction completed.
Sorry, not timeline, I'm thinking more like lifetime.
Yeah, so initially probably about 20 to 25 years. Yep.
Don, will it be waste management personnel on the ground operating the equipment and loading the trailers, or will that be Rutherford County?
No, this will be our subcontractor, MBI.
Okay.
So who is our subcontractor at our other transfer stations as well.
Okay. So you will own the machinery and load it, or has that?
That's right. Yes. So all this that you see here is us and our subcontractor. So this is all part of our contract. Yeah. Rutherford County personnel will run the scale house, do the customer transactions, and then everything past the scale house we'll take care of. Yep. Other questions on operation?
You mentioned you had a hauling operation in Laverne.
It is actually at, let's see. Yes, those guys, give me the.
Is it off?
Yeah, it's 483, Dick, let me see what the thing is. Dick Buchanan, yeah, that's it. Yep. Other questions on that? I'm going to talk about some other future opportunities here if there's no other questions on the operation side. So I already talked about River Hills. It has the capacity if the county decides that it wants to move forward with some additional recycling. We actually worked with the county on a pilot program in February, started in February 2023, came in full operation of December of 2023 to work with them to increase their single stream recycling at the convenience centers. The mayor talked about, kind of the reduction in hauls that the county had to make. So by converting them to completely single stream, it allowed the county to reduce their hauls into Nashville and save money in terms of their fleet costs. We feel like there's opportunity, as the mayor said, at the transfer station. I'll go back a couple. If you look at kind of it's actually the far left bay there on that screen, kind of by number 1, there's an opportunity there to take that bay and dedicate it for single stream recycling and allow the county to, instead of driving up to Nashville, to take the material and kind of put it in that initial bay, and then we could load it into that would be loaded into an open top trailer and then taken up to River Hills. So the ability to reduce kind of travel time there would be beneficial. Yes, sir.
Will you define for the viewing public what single stream recycling means?
Sure. What we call, that's a good point, what we call single stream recycling means that you put everything into one bin. So if you're a homeowner, you have your plastics, your paper, your cardboard, your tin cans, your aluminum cans, you throw it all into one bin, and then when we receive that at our facility, we have sorting equipment that sorts it into all those different components and commodities. It's, from a consumer standpoint, it's a lot simpler operation for them. It encourages participation rather than having to think about, do I have to sort this at the curb into, many different factors. So if we think about, and the mayor mentioned cities, Laverne, Smyrna, Murfreesboro, there's an opportunity as well to provide them with carts. So if we think about the single stream carts, the containers, there's an opportunity that WM would partner with those cities and provide them with the carts and encourage single stream recycling. That's going to be your biggest ability to really influence the amount of recycling you're collecting in the county, is to go to a curbside residential single stream program. That's really going to drive your recycling growth in the county. So we have programs in other parts of the country where we'll provide those cities or municipalities with those carts to help them start that program. Then if we think about, just something to think about with C&D recycling, as we start operating the transfer station and we start to see the types of materials that come in, there's an opportunity. When we were looking at building our C&D recycling facility in Nashville, we actually partnered with Tennessee State University to do an inbound waste study. So they looked at the types of construction demolition materials that we were receiving to help us determine what sort of equipment we'd need to purchase and how we would sort that out. So there's certainly an opportunity for the county to think about some potential research partnerships with universities to look at the inbound flow of materials as this transfer station gets operational, and you want to look at other diversion technologies in terms of, like you said, what makes sense. Does it make sense for us to build a facility here, or does it make sense to partner with somebody else? As I mentioned, we have a very active community education engagement program here in Middle Tennessee. And we'd be happy to assist the county with that education. Includes, going to schools, partnering with them. We partner with a lot of community beautification projects, do a lot of facility tours. It's really helpful to bring people into the recycling facility to show them kind of, if you're recycling at your curb, what happens to it. We find a lot of people don't really understand what happens to their recycling after they put it at the curb. And then we also do a lot of community event recycling program support. We partner with organizations like TEC to provide some Recycle Roundup support as well to help to encourage that. So there's an opportunity there for us to help you as you kind of go down the line here of looking at opportunities to divert more waste, and we're happy to help you partner on that. I think this is an interesting graphic. It's something that we've really been showing people as we talk about recycling, is that all the material managed at our facilities in Middle Tennessee is recovered and reused within about a 5-hour radius of our facilities. So there's no export going to other countries. Everything is used here, and there's a demand for those products as well. So we have an outlet for the materials that we recover, whether it's Pratt taking the cardboard, or Westrock taking that as well, or KW Plastics taking the plastic bottles, and so I think if we think about that education process, it's important to know that those materials are being used regionally, and really, part of that circularity story that we like to tell, that that they are going back into production and back into reuse here in Middle Tennessee. So, look, in summary, we're making investments in Rutherford County, as I mentioned. The Laverne facility will be operational here in the next couple months, and we're prepared to deliver volume to the transfer station day one. We certainly feel that a minimum of 60,000 tons from us alone in year one is something that we're very prepared to do. That's material that's currently going to a transfer station in Nashville right now that's being collected right here in Rutherford County. We're positioned with our current footprint, the investments in infrastructure that we've made to support the current and the future solid waste needs of Rutherford County. And, we have the resources and the knowledge, not only nationally but locally as well, to assist the county in evaluating your options and opportunities as you pivot yourself towards a more sustainable future. So, thanks for your time. I'll answer any other questions. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Don.
Yep.
Robert asked Commissioner P asked a good question. I thought it might be good for you guys. And how do you assist us in keeping county trash, or how will you suggest Bishop monitor out of county trash? And have you had success in other facilities with that? Is that?
Yeah, look, Bishop gave the answer that we would give as well. You do rely on the haulers in terms of determining where that material is coming from. The haulers need to let you know the origin of that material. I think the way that this facility is, the pricing structure that you have right now, the fact that, your customers are going to be looking at coming from either other transfer stations or diverting away from the landfill, I don't think you're going to get, them coming from 2 or 3 counties over. I think the way you've priced it is kind of comparable to other counties. It's not going to encourage this rapid movement of waste from other counties. And our intention certainly is not to move volume in from Nashville or Davidson County. We want to continue to grow our Rutherford County presence and bring volume from Rutherford County through this facility. So.
So interesting. That's an interesting thought. Would you bring, of the 60,000 tons you commit to that first, you not commit, but you feel strong you could bring, is it all from in Rutherford County, or is any of it from the perimeter?
Oh, no, it's all from Rutherford. We have about 100,000 tons a year that we currently collect in Rutherford County, and we take to our transfer station in Nashville. So for us, and there's a lot of other customers that are doing that right now, that are taking it to other transfer facilities but collecting in Rutherford County, because as a hauler, look, I run landfills, but, as a hauler, they'd rather go to a transfer station, dump on concrete, it's quicker turns. So the volume we're going to bring is collected in Rutherford County. Absolutely. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Kush.
Don, you mentioned that your focus seemed to be on the natural gas, the diversion rate, and then the recycling, right?
That's right.
So help me, what is the difference between diversion and recycling? What am I missing there?
Well, I think diversion is diverting away from landfills, and recycling is actually recovering the material. So you can think about recycling. I think about diversion, I'll use my own terminology. If you can think about diversion, you might think about diverting organics you might think about diverting recyclable products, you might think about diverting construction demolition. And when we think about recycling, it's really about, for the nomenclature, for the common person, it's more about single stream and taking the material, the plastics, the cardboard, and the paper material. But you could divert material away from landfills using, different technologies, certainly.
Well, that being said, like diverting C&D in organics, do you have a component for that? Are you making mulch in some facilities or a soil component?
Yeah, in Middle Tennessee for construction demolition debris, the facility we have in Nashville, we're recovering metal, gets recycled at a metal recycling facility. We're recovering, there's a lot of aggregate product that comes out of that material. We recover soil as well that we reuse. Cardboard, concrete, those type of materials that we're recovering. And wood, there's a lot of wood product that then we would take, and we've got a partnership with another company that actually makes mulch out of that. That's right. If you think about organic side, we don't have any organics facilities in Middle Tennessee, but if you look across the country, you could be talking about larger scale co-composting facilities with food waste and, combined with yard waste and, to make an organic compost or topsoil product. So there's readily available technologies. It's just a matter of your ability to recover is really dependent on how you collect it at the curb too. If you think about food waste, if you take food waste and put it in with your regular garbage and everything, you're not recovering that out. You need to be able to collect it at the curb separately, or you go to universities or larger, areas that have, kind of a common campus that you could then do that diversion there as well. So there's a lot of strategies that you can use to be able to kind of, gain your goals. So,
is it safe to say that now that we've taken a huge step with the transfer station, and we've kind of been able now to control our own destiny, knowing that at some point in time, Republic may close, will close, and we have our own control. Is it kind of safe to say that now with this transfer station, we have a blank slate in terms of now we can again focus on what we tried to do a year or two ago and look at technologies to partner with in the diversion, in the recycling? Of course, natural gas would not be part of our search, but I know the waste away thing sounded really good. You mentioned the scalability. That is still a hurdle they're trying to find. Funding is still part of their hurdle. Your finger's on the pulse of worldwide waste. Are there things that we need to be, I guess, if there are things we need to be looking at or people we need to be interviewing that can help us, that are proven. I mean, we went through this 2 years ago. We do not want to be the guinea pig, right? But we're always welcome and open to help on maybe we should interview or talk to these folks. So we would appreciate that help.
Yeah, so I think a couple things. I think if you think about your easiest opportunity to divert waste away from a landfill right now, it's investing in single stream curbside recycling in your cities. I mean, certainly that's a step that you need to take in terms of being able, you can go and collect it at the source, get public participation. Again, we have the infrastructure to manage that volume. The ability with a transfer station, what it's going to also allow you to do is characterize the waste that's coming through the county and then look at what might make sense in terms of a technology investment. So that does give you the opportunity and the flexibility to do that. But I think that there's incremental steps that the county and its partnering with the cities should make here over the next few years if you're really serious about looking at long-term diversion rather than just, plop a technology in the middle of something that's, just not going to be proven to work. You're going to really have to incrementally make improvements here over the next few years. Yep. That helps. Other questions? Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Building Codes Report, Tanya Bell. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman. I'm Tanya Bell. I'm the Rutherford County Building Codes Director, and I have our monthly report for April. In the month of April, we issued a total of 473 building permits, and 74 of those were single-family dwellings, for a total revenue of $268,302.89. We completed a little better than 1,700 building inspections for the month. And if nobody has any questions, I'll move right along. Development tax and school facilities tax. School facilities tax, we collected a total of $657,029, and development tax, $5,250. It was a big month. Yep. It's starting to pick up again as far as school facilities tax is concerned. Those projects and stuff that we seen that we issued in October are now starting to close out. And if there's no questions on that, I will move on to zoning enforcement. Zoning enforcement, we completed 194 inspections and picked up about 40 signs. And that concludes my report.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
We have a motion and a second to approve the report. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
You too. What's left of it? Highway Department, Superintendent Greg Brooks. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Oh,
I am Road Superintendent Greg Brooks. I'm on the Highway Department. This is my Public Works Engineer, my new guy introduced last month, I believe, James Locum. We're here tonight to bring to you some temporary construction easements on 3 lots that we are going to rework a drainage easement. What happened was a call came in, a citizen called about some flooding that was happening, reoccurring flooding, and James went out and made contact with them and assessed the situation, and we're going to be able to regrade a platted drainage easement and probably solve the problem. So if you again, this is a temporary construction easement. This will not go into our drainage easement book, our Public Works drainage easement book. This will be in and out, and then it will revert back to the property owners taking care of their own yards. Approved at the road board yesterday morning and brought for your consideration.
So this is just a simple regrading operation?
It is.
Piping, no changing, anything like that?
No.
All right.
No, it's,
I would make a motion to approve.
we have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Oh, we have discussion? Oh,
I think that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you very much.
hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Solid Waste and Convenience Center report. Director Wagner. Hello again.
Hello, everyone. Bishop Wagner, your Solid Waste Director. Rutherford County Landfill accepted 99.75 tons of brush for a revenue of $2,997 in the month of April. We managed 1,286 tires for a revenue of $2,810. The total revenue from the landfill scale operations was $5,807. Rutherford County Solid Waste managed 3,429.91 tons of waste from all sources in the month of April. 2,493.86 tons came from our county convenience centers. 510.80 tons came from our schools. We recycled and diverted 425.25 tons from all sources. That's a residential diversion rate of 12.40% for April. That concludes my report.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Planning and Engineering, Director Doug DeMasi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. I know I'm pretty much last on the agenda, so I'll try to make this as brief as possible. We have just a few items for your consideration tonight. Also, when I'm finished, our Assistant County Engineer for Construction, Jared Bonar, is here for an additional item you don't see on the agenda, but I'll introduce him here in just a few minutes. The first item is our presentation of our available lot inventory. You'll see that on your iPads. You'll see the total available lots as of the end of April is 1,061. That's down slightly from last month by about 20 or 30 lots. And the total available lots, as you can see from last year at this time, it's up just a little bit, about 15 lots. Again, we are getting into the season where you start seeing more construction. There are a number of factors that are affecting home construction and things like now, interest rates, cost of materials, whatnot. You've probably seen the reports on the news like I have. But for right now, we're pretty much staying steady for what we had last year. So, if anybody has any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I will move into our rezoning report. We do have two rezoning applications for your consideration. Planning commissioners, those that are on the planning commission will recall we actually had 3 public hearings last month. However, one of those items was removed from consideration for the Board of Zoning Appeals. That was, from the Board of Commissioners. That was the one for the item on John Bragg Highway. That one was recommended denial by the Planning Commission, and the applicant has removed that item from consideration. So the two we have, the first is a piece of property at 7277 Lebanon Pike. This is by Brian Bird. Existing zoning is residential medium density, and the proposed zoning is institutional. In a nutshell, the church that is on this property, Walter Hill Church of Christ, is looking to make an expansion. They came and met with us back in March. Turns out the expansion that they are proposing to do is going to put them from a medium community assembly to a large, which a large community assembly is anything with an occupancy of over 500. That is not allowed in residential zones. However, it is allowed in the institutional zone, so they are asking for institutional zoning. They will still have to bring the site plan through the Planning Commission for consideration should this be approved. Really, this is not really going to affect the development of the site all that much as far as access and parking. There's an existing drive that's already there, existing parking lot. The parking lot has more than enough parking for the extra capacity, and everything else would just pretty much stay the same as far as the operations of the church are concerned. It's just again, the revisions that they're making to the property are going to increase their occupancy beyond what we could approve as a medium community assembly. There was very little discussion of this at the Planning Commission. There were some questions about the interior modifications they were making, adding a fellowship hall, those kind of things. After the public hearing, nobody spoke. The Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. The second item for your consideration next week, and this particular item had a lot more public input and discussion. This is by Whitfield Hamilton. This is located at 8808 Manchester Pike. Again, it's zoned RM, residential medium density, and they're asking for a planned unit development for about 171 acres. You probably will recognize this particular site when you see it, as well as the discussion we've had on this. This is the proposed Barrett manufacturing facility that you probably all heard about in the news. I'm going to read just a quick portion of this from their pattern book. The proposed tenant, which again is Barrett, we know, intends to rezone this property to PUD with the use being primarily light industrial in nature. The standards for this development were modeled after those required for light industrial district, but has restricted many of the uses limited to limit the number of possibly adverse uses. They're proposing approximately 273,000 square feet of light assembly and manufacturing facility, a small assembly building on the property as well. You'll notice that there is a pattern book that I have included on the iPads. I can go into as much or as little detail as you want on that, but you'll see in there architectural elevations. You'll see the proposed uses that they are recommending in the event that another facility or another user were to use the facility in the future. You'll also see discussion on the access and the parking. There was quite a bit of discussion at the Planning Commission regarding those issues. You'll see that they are proposing to make turn lane and also signal improvements to that intersection. TDOT is in the process of developing a plan and design for improvements to both Epps Mill Road, to that intersection at Manchester Pike, along with improvements to the interchange at the Epps Mill Road and I-24 interchange. Commissioners, you'll recall, within the last couple of years, you have set aside a sizable amount of money to help with those improvements, I think about $5 to $6 million, if I remember correctly. Last we've heard from TDOT, it's still on their current 10-year plan for construction to begin in 2026. So essentially, the improvements that the Barrett manufacturing facility would make on the front end would be to the existing alignment at Epps Mill Road and Manchester Pike, and then when the alignment is shifted to a better geometry, TDOT would come back and replace and redo those traffic signals with a more permanent arm masts and everything like that. I will say that there was quite a bit of discussion at this during the public hearing. There were a number of people who did speak on this. Of course, their concerns were increased traffic in the area, the appropriateness of the zoning, and development for that area, drainage, environmental concerns. There were also several who did speak in favor of the request. It wasn't just in opposition. Several that were there that worked at the facility, the current facility, as well as those who just lived in the area but maybe not worked at the facility. Something that I will say, there was some discussion, you won't see this in the brief narrative that I placed in here, but there was some further discussion regarding some of the uses that the applicant was proposing in their pattern book. There were about 4 or 5 different uses, as I recall, that were removed from the pattern book based on the Planning Commission's recommendation. The pattern book that's on your iPads right now reflects those modifications to the pattern book as well. After all the discussion in a public hearing, and it was a lengthy public hearing, I just prepare you guys for the meeting next week. It'll probably be a long one. The Planning Commission did recommend approval by a vote of 9-4 and 1 against, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug, it was a very lengthy discussion, and the majority of the naysayers were concerned about traffic. And I think even the commissioner that represents that district in a roundabout way said that this type of business would have less impact than if they did a residential community because of the number of homes. But refresh everybody's memory here on the things that we took out in terms of uses, because they were some of the heavy tractor trailer potentials that we took out purposely to protect the neighborhood in case the Barrett deal didn't go through. So can you talk about
yes,
that?
Yes, sir. One of the uses, and I forget the exact way they had it worded, but it was like a truck terminal or something like that. The other 3 or 4 uses related to manufacturing and assembly of automobiles, automobile seats and something like that, I think, if I remember right. But if I remember, there was like 4 or 5 total uses, but you're correct. Those were all removed per the applicant, at the meeting.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second to approve the report. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you. And if I may at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'll introduce our Assistant County Engineer for Construction, Mr. Jared Bonar. He is going to discuss a potential grant opportunity.
Thank you, Doug. Welcome, Mr. Bonar.
Chairman, members of the committee, I wanted to bring this before y'all, get this up here on my level. The county is looking at applying for what's called the SS4A grant, Safe Streets for All. It is basically a planning grant to make what's called an action plan for improving safety operations throughout the highway system in Rutherford County. What we're going to look for, what we're looking at is the grant itself is split into two separate pieces. There's a planning and demonstration grant and an implementation grant. What we would be looking for is help to build that action plan through an implementation grant. Right now, what we're looking at planning on is asking for about $500,000. This is a federal grant, so it would have to go through USDOT to get the money. So basically what I'm asking for is from this committee is the start of permission to apply for this grant. So.
Mr. Dodd.
If you are successful, will you come back to us, let us know you're successful, and that we have a chance to
absolutely
confirm the match or the potential cost to the county?
Yes. Yes.
Very good.
It is an 80-20 split grant.
80-20?
Yes, sir.
80-20. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, you were talking about safety initiatives y'all are looking at. Y'all looked at roundabouts any? From what I've been reading, roundabouts versus four-way stops are a lot safer, fewer accidents, and then a lot fewer fatalities when there are accidents. Is that something y'all would consider?
Absolutely. As far as it's kind of a running joke with me. I'm a big proponent of them. I'd like to see them come in at a lot of places around the county. So, but that would definitely be part of what we would consider improvement to an intersection, is putting in a single lane roundabout.
Any other questions?
No, if there aren't any other questions, I would like to make the motion to approve this. And other components of our county have already applied, and they've encouraged us to do so. Smyrna, Murfreesboro, et cetera. So thank you for pursuing this.
Second.
Hey, we have a motion and a second to approve the grant. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed?
It's just to apply.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you all.
Okay, now we have other business. Okay, hopefully next month we'll have consolidated utilities. We would have had them this month, but I didn't reach out to them because I knew we would have a long meeting tonight with the presentations that we had already on schedule. So we'll try to have them here next month. That'd be June. And also, basically the same request from Commissioner James to have Middle Tennessee Electric here. I was planning on trying to have them here in July. Of course, that's depending on if that works for them. I've also reached out to Rachel Cornett. She's the president of Recycle Rutherford, and I've asked her to, if they feel a need or just want to come and present to us anything that concerns the county on recycling, that we'd be more than happy for them to come and speak and have any presentation.
Question. How didn't you two attend a recycle? How did that go?
Mr. P?
Actually, I was going to bring that up. Commissioner James, myself, Chairman Dodd, attended Recycle Rutherford's meeting, and it was very informative. A state senator Heidi Campbell was there. And there's some legislation, evidently, I don't know if it's passed or she expects it to pass, but she gave a presentation. She's actually Tennessee State Senator from the 20th District, and I think it's part of Nashville. But she was talking about recycling possibilities. And this legislation is where a lot of countries in the world require the corporations that operate in their boundaries to put money aside to recycle a lot of the products and things that they do. Well, evidently that's finally getting passed down to at our state level. And she was talking about the opportunities that will be coming across, and also a lot of the partners here inside the state of Tennessee that will give us recycling abilities. So there will be grants available. There's also partnerships. I know there's one guy said they take every metal can that we produce. They would take another one would take all the glass we can produce, and all that's going in a lot of that's going in our landfill right now. Other one talked about the plastics. So there are markets out there. But I'd ask the chairman, and of course he referred to that, if she could come and do the same presentation she did for us at the Recycle Rutherford meeting for all of us to see, and we can share that countywide. She said she'd be happy to. I've given him their contact information. But the other thing that I was made aware of is the state of Tennessee has a sustainability, I'll spit it out in a minute, conference in Gatlinburg in August, and it's August the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. That's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But county commissioners are encouraged to attend, especially a group like ours. I don't usually look into things like that, but after I saw what was going to be presented, I'm thinking that I will probably go. Now, I know we recently did something hearing to allow that, but this conference will be covering recycling, composting, sustainability, landfills, new technology, innovative projects, insights on recycling, education, equipment, processes, and leadership. But anyway, I think that might be something this committee could use. This is the state of Tennessee will be hosting that. It's I don't know if it's TDEC or who's actually putting this conference on, but I'll send you. I've got some information where you can actually apply to go. It's actually going to be in Gatlinburg. I don't know what building, but setting up the hotel. I've forgotten the name of the hotel. It's the one up on top of the round one up on top of the hill there. But at any rate, it's something that I think that would help all of us to go there.
Based on our steering committee meeting last night, I highly encourage you to fill out your form tomorrow if it's in August.
Mayor Carr, Jeff.
Bishop's already got it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on that, that week is the third week of August, and that's the week that the commission normally is not scheduled to have any meetings, so it would be a perfect week for someone to take some time and attend that meeting.
Okay. Anyone else have anything under other business? Okay, I have one other thing. I had a lady to reach out to me and have another phone call. And my wife even inquired about it. Why does this stuff keep going on? It's Facebook. I quit going to Facebook because most of it on there is trash. It's misinformation. And if that's what you want, people keep going there. But I quit. course, I saw it last night because my wife stuck it in my face. But I did have 2 other inquiries about it, and there's a young lady on there that's obvious to me that, and I can stand corrected, but I've reached out to all of the so-called friends of hers on Facebook. She keeps posting all this stuff, political stuff, and bashing me and some other commissioners and chairmen. And she has no real friends. I reach out to all of her friends, and nobody knows who she is. And there's many people on there like that. But seems like most of the public, that's what they want to see is, you know, a lot of negative, and they believe every word of it. And so that's why I quit going on Facebook, on the Rutherford politics, basically, because there's no way to control it. You can go on there with a fake account, say anything you want to, and that's all it is. It's just what you want to say, and most of it's negative. But it was concerning Ms. Donna Barrett's resolution that we had passed, a month or 2 back, and there was a quote in there that I said that it was a feel-good resolution, and those were my words. It was a feel-good resolution. That was about the second resolution, not Ms. Barrett's resolution that she presented, but I said that about the second resolution because the original resolution that we didn't like, and we had a special call session to bring it back, and we had a watered-down version that was passed by the committee. But that watered-down one was what I was talking about, was a feel-good. And what I meant by that was, okay, for lack of better words, the damage was done, or the party's over, whatever. Ms. Rowland's committee, the night before we had the watered-down version, had already approved the version they wanted, the version that we didn't approve. So to me, that's why I said it was a feel-good. It was to make somebody, and not on everybody's part that voted for it, but many commissioners vote for things like that because it's, look what I did for you. And really, it did nothing. That's my opinion. And that's what I've seen over almost 20 years of being a commissioner. Those kind of resolutions go through. And I'm not a part of that. I'm just not. That's not the way I work. There was another quote in there where supposedly I said to another commissioner, and how she's supposed to know that, I don't know, but I said to another commissioner that I didn't care where the trash came from that was going into North Rutherford County. And that was a quote. I didn't say that. I did say to someone, and I think I even said it in a meeting, that I don't care where the trash is coming from, because what I meant by that was everybody keeps saying we don't want Nashville's trash. I don't want out-of-county trash. That was my point. And we're villainizing Nashville for their trash. I don't care if it comes from Nashville or wherever. The care is controlling it, the amount. So I'm just trying to clarify that. Many things are twisted. If you come to me and ask me what I said, I'm going to tell you the truth. And if I do something wrong, I'm most likely going to put it out to the public before anybody else can catch me and put it out, because that's the way I've always worked. I'm just going to be up front with you, and that's what I'm doing tonight. And I know it's been a long meeting, and I appreciate you listening to me. But I just wanted to clarify that, because I had a dear lady out in the Walter Hill area or Lascassas area, and she confronted me about it online, and she says, I'm praying that that's not the case, because I think you're a better man than to make those statements. And those were my words, but they were twisted. So thank you very much. And if no one else has any other business, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.